Hey guys, for today's video, I'll be guiding you over how to build Illuga, who is arguably the best support for Lunar Crystallize teams in Genshin Impact. Now, before starting off with this kit, the Lunar Crystallize reaction is a variant of the Hydro Crystallize reaction that requires a moon sign character like Tsibai or Columbina to activate it. Instead of creating a Hydro shard that gives you a Hydro resistant shield when picked up, like the Hydro Crystallize reaction, it simply creates 3 small Geo turrets that are considered a Geo construct, whose damage scales off of crits and EM, and mostly off of the highest and second highest Lunar Crystallize DPS, similarly to the Lunar Charge reaction. Now, these Geo constructs do periodic instances of Lunar Crystallize damage, but they can also do instances of damage if you trigger the Lunar Crystallize reaction, meaning that you're gonna want to constantly trigger the Lunar Crystallize reaction so that the Geo turrets can constantly be doing more instances of Lunar Crystallize damage. Here's how to save big when topping up for Genshin Impact's 6.3 banners. Lubar.gg has a limited discount where the 6,480 Genesis Crystal Bundle is only $70 for a week starting December 23rd. They also have a bunch of other discounts on different bundles like the all-in-one bundle and the guaranteed bundles. They also have a 10% off for new users coupon and a 5 and a 3% off for returning users coupon. To save on your top-ups, go to lubar.gg, choose a bundle, put your account information, then click top up now. Then select your payment method, add or use a coupon code, then click pay now. In a couple of minutes, your discounted bundle should arrive. Now, lubar.gg is trusted by creators like Genshin Impact and Gopa certified, and that has a 4.9 rating on Trustpilot alongside a bunch of 5-star reviews. So if you want to save when topping up, go to lubar.gg by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description. For Illuga's kit, like I said, he's arguably the best support for Lunar Crystallize teams, since he has more supportive value than even Columbina when he's at higher constellations. This is because he provides a bunch of damage buffs based off of his EM with his ultimate and talents. His ultimate provides damage buffing stacks that are consumed when allies do Geo damage and Lunar Crystallize damage, and Illuga can regenerate a fixed amount of these stacks when allies spawn in Geo constructs, meaning that he's gonna want to be paired up with characters like Zhongli if he wants to provide more damage buffs, and his talents increases the amount of these damage buffs with the more Geo/Hydro characters on the team. Also, his other talent increases the crit stats of Geo damage, and it provides 50 EM for all allies when the moon sign is of the Ascendant Gleam level, which will be good for pretty much every moon sign character and the Lunar DPS. For his skill priorities, you should level up his ultimate, then his character level. This is because the majority of his buffs come from his ultimate, and leveling him up provides him with up to 96 EM, which will be important because his buffs scale off of EM. For his stats, he's gonna want around 160% to 180% ER when being run in triple Geo teams, but he's gonna want around 20 to 30% more ER if he's run in double Geo teams. He's also gonna want around 20% less ER for every Favonius proc. After that, you should build him with as much EM as possible, since, again, the majority of his buffs scale off of EM. For his artifacts, he's gonna want a mixture of 2-piece bonuses that provide EM, so that he can increase the amount of buffs his ultimate and talent give. But if he's at C2 or above, he can use the Soken Moonset, which will be good for his ER requirements, and that will allow him to provide a good amount of EM for not just himself but his entire team, while also allowing him to increase the damage dealt of lunar reactions. For his main stats, he's gonna want EM over ER for his sands, since these two are his 2 most desired stats, but he can typically get enough ER through his substats. Then he's gonna want EM for his goblets and EM for his circlets. For his substats, prioritize his ER requirements, then get as much EM as possible. For his weapons, the Katine Spear and the Favonius Lance will both be top tier weapons, since they provide him with ER. The Katine Spear provides him with EM, and the Favonius Lance allows him to provide energy for the rest of the team, which will be really important because Columbina, a premium option for Lunar Crystallize teams, desperately wants energy. For other alternatives, weapons that provide a lot of EM like the Dragon's Bane or a lot of ER like the Catch would be better than weapons that provide less EM and ER like the Mountain Bracing Bolt or the Moon Piercer. For his teams, he'll really only be good in Lunar Crystallize teams. For your Lunar Crystallize teams, you'll want 1 Geo main DPS, 1 Hydro Applicator, and 1 Flex slot, preferably a Geo Flex slot, with one of these characters being a moon sign character that allows the team to activate the Lunar Crystallize reaction. For your Geo main DPS, obviously Tsibai will be the best because her kit revolves around the Lunar Crystallize reaction, and not only can she activate it, but she she also increases its damage and can do Lunar Crystallize damage with the 4th attack of her enhanced normal attack chain. But you can also use any other Geo main DPS like Navia or Ito, though they'll definitely perform considerably worse. For your Hydro applicators, Colombina will be the best because she also activates the Lunar Crystallize reaction and increases the damage of the reaction by a significant amount. Not only that, but she does powerful Lunar Crystallize sub DPS, which is valuable because, again, the damage of the Lunar Crystallize reaction is mostly based off of the damage of the highest and second highest Lunar Crystallize DPS, similarly to the Lunar Charge reaction, which in this case, the main Geo DPS would be the highest and Colombina would be the second highest. For other alternatives, Aino will be your second best since she can increase Lunar reaction damage and provide EM with her Constellations, but other Hydro applicators like Furina, Yelan, and Jincho will all be relatively as good. For your flex slots, Lunar Crystallize teams will prefer a Geo flex slot since it will reduce the ER requirements of the team, provide the Geo resonance buff, and typically Geo characters just synergize far better with other Geo characters than characters of another element. Thus, Goro will be the best since he can increase defense by a ton and provide crit damage with the C6, but Zhongli would also be a top tier option since he can shred resistances, make a Geo construct, and sustain the team. For other options, Cylonen when paired up with Furina instead of Colombina will be very powerful as well. Inefa would also be viable since she can do powerful lunar reaction damage, and Chiori would also be good because she can do powerful Geo sub DPS and create Geo constructs. For his constellations, his C1 regenerates 1/5 of his ultimate around every rotation, which will be really nice for his energy recharge requirements because it'll allow him to only build around 4/5 of what he typically needs. For his C2, it lets him do Geo damage every time he consumes 7 out of a maximum of 36 ultimate stacks, which will allow him to use the Silken Moon sets, since it'll allow him to consistently keep up its buffs. For his C4, it increases allies' defense by 200 when he uses his ultimate, which will be decent for the Geo main DPS's damage. For his C6, it enhances his crit stats and EM providing talents, which will be a significant boost for a Lunar Crystallize team's DPS. For my investment recommendations, Illuga will be able to do just fine with 4-star weapons, but for his constellations, I strongly recommend going for his C2 and C6, since they increase a Lunar Crystallize team's damage significantly, to the point where these vertical investments can provide more for a Lunar Crystallize team than even Colombina. Now, should you pull for Illuga? Well, in my opinion, you should only pull for Illuga if you're going to pull for Tsibai instead of new VLATs in the upcoming 6.4 banners. This is because I only recommend pulling for Illuga if you plan on using him in Lunar Crystallize teams, which Tsibai is far better suited for than new VLATs. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you wish to know more, you can click on the video to the right. With that being said, goodbye.